Hey everybody, we're gonna see who all joins. I'm gonna give it about 2 minutes to see if anyone else is gonna jump on this call, and then we'll get started. It's beautiful outside, so I decided to do this broadcast outside because it's a beautiful day. So if you're watching this video after this live webinar, just feel free to fast forward to about the 2-minute mark in order to get the broadcast started, because this will be uploaded onto YouTube. I'm going to start playing around with some things here and see what all is here. Let's see what's going on. So giving it a little bit longer, see who shows up. About 1 more minute and we'll get started. I wonder how this thing works. All right. So, 2. Let's see what's going on. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. For those of you that don't know, my name is Andrew O'Brien, and I'm the owner of wishproject.org and livingresilient.com. Today's webinar, we're gonna be talking about a couple of things, but one of the biggest things we're gonna be talking about is media. And so, well, right now we only have, we're waiting on one more viewer. I'm gonna give it a second, see if they show up. Let's see. All right, so again, today's topic is about media and the power of media, and I wanted to kind of focus on that today because that's something I've heard before about, the benefits of being on the news. The first thing I like to do is kind of introduce myself and tell you a little more about myself. So I now am very successful and live a very good life, but it hasn't always been this way. I am currently living in a good life, but whenever I was a child, I was raised in a very rough life. What I like to say is that my life was in this specific order. It was prostitution, war, suicide, and murder. These were the events of my life that took over. And so as a child, I was raised by a prostitute mother in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. And I went through a lot of hard experiences. We were moving every 3 to 6 months to really, we never had stability. We lived in motel rooms, cars, trailer parks, apartments, houses. We never knew where we were going to live next. My mother jumped from man to man, and she just was not a great person. And so being raised in that kind of environment, you kind of feel like that's just who you're going to be for the rest of your life. That's just how it's going to end up being. After my childhood, I got into my teenage years where I started making some very big mistakes, and a lot of bad choices that affected my life. And then I ended up dropping out of high school. Got my GED a few months before I was supposed to graduate with a high school diploma. And then I joined the United States Army. I joined the Army in 2007. I served 4 years in. I got out in 2011. During my service, I served 12 months in Iraq. And after my 12-month deployment, about a year after returning home, still in the Army, I attempted to take my own life. Now, that was a mixture of emotions from my childhood and Iraq, so there's not one main issue as to why I attempted suicide. It was just everything overwhelmed me at one time. And luckily, I failed at that suicide attempt, and I woke up 2 days later in the ICU. And that's when my life changed. I got out of the Army because it was the end of my contract. I was not med boarded. And then when I got out, I was kind of lost. You know, I jumped from job to job trying to figure out where I fit in, what was right for me, and where did I belong. And I would jump from office job and horse ranches, and I mean, I did all kinds of things. And the thing is I couldn't find that one thing that really hit home for me, that really I was passionate about. And so I was working at this office job for about 6 months, and then I heard the news come on about the amount of veterans taking their own life every day, and that's when my passion began. And when I realized that there was 22 veterans taking their own life every day, that's when I really started to find my passion. I found my heart. I found my mission in life, and that's what, you know, a lot of us entrepreneurs or career-oriented people are. We're very passionate about what we do, and we want to do something different than what the rest of the society is doing. We don't like the idea of doing the minimum to make it through life. And so that's my story of where I came from and the experiences I went through. So you heard about the prostitution, the war, and the suicide. What I haven't talked about was the murder. Was my mom was actually convicted of murder just last year in October. I had to testify in court against her. And she actually asked me after she committed the murder against her husband while he was sleeping in her bed, she asked me to help her frame her husband's ex-wife. So my life has been one big mess. And what I learned was how to overcome that. And I've overcame it in an amazing way. You know, I've really succeeded in my life. After all the struggles that I've faced, I've really made it further. And that's why I now am coaching on success and teaching others how to become successful. Because if I went through all these experiences in my life and came out successful, then so can you. And so today's topic is media, and I'm going to talk about the benefit of having media. So when you have a business, you always want to get it out in front of as many people as you can, right? Now here's the thing is with media, it's a little tricky, okay? First step is you have to have a story that the media wants to hear. It can't just be, hey, I have this business that I just started. Can you put me on the news? It doesn't work that way. You have to have some kind of news about it, something dramatic, something exciting, something that's going to interest the viewers. And just because it interests you doesn't mean that it's definitely going to interest the viewers. Now, for those of you that don't know, I've been on over 50 media stations across BBC in England or in Europe. I've been in NHK. In Japan, I've been on USA Today, MSNBC, Al Jazeera America, Huffington Post. I mean, I've been on too many that I'm not gonna list right now, but I've been on a lot of media. And what this media does is it increases your attention, your brand. It creates brand awareness, product awareness. Now, I'll tell you right now, getting on the media, it doesn't mean that that's gonna bring you a client. All right. Whenever I've done news interviews, I have never gotten one client from any news interview I've ever done. I haven't. But the thing is it adds trust to your name. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is get you on the media. And the reason is because it adds trust to your name. When you go to a website and you see someone's website and there's all these media links on top, that's what adds in some trust to your product, to your service. Whenever you have that, if you're brand new to the business, you don't have testimonials, you don't have word of mouth, what the media does is it adds something better to you. It makes you look more legit, makes you more trustworthy. Something about being on TV adds trust to your clients. And so, you know, being on over 50 media stations, that adds trust because being a public speaker, someone has to pay me a really good amount of money to come out. And in order for me to come out, they have to pay a deposit. Now, the reason people are comfortable with paying deposits for my service is because they see all the media I've been on. That adds that trust factor. And even if you don't ask for deposits, you still need that trust factor and the fact that you've been on TV, so that means that you must be doing something legitimate. And so the thing is let's figure out how to get you on media. So there's a couple people I know that do summer camps for kids. Very easy to get on the media. You just have to talk about the things that you're doing. Okay, so the biggest thing I want you to do is I want you to focus on the heartstrings. How are you going to tug on the heartstrings of the audience in the media, right? So let's say I know that someone's watching is about to open or trying to open a vape shop. It's a little more difficult to get on the media because it's a vape shop. There's in the world, but I know this person is a veteran. So maybe if the person that owns a vape shop, they do something special. They do a launch event that benefits veterans in the area. Maybe it benefits the homeless veterans. Maybe it benefits veterans struggling with PTSD. You find something to pull on the heartstrings that's also nice. That's something that's going to benefit the nonprofit society. And that's how you get the media attention, is you make that name for yourself of not just another business owner, but you're someone who cares about the community. The community is that's your clientele, the people in your community. So you want your community, your clientele, to know that you care about people and that you want to help in any way that you can. So say you do this launch event, then you make a press release, and this press release has to pull on the heartstrings. There has to be some kind of personal story to it. Maybe you have someone like myself who comes out to your community event and speaks at it. You know, something like that. And I'm not saying hire me, I'm just saying you have someone who has a legitimate story, a heartbreaking, heartstring pulling story that brings in the media attention to the event. And that is how you start to grow that brand awareness, the product awareness, is you've got to focus on that press release. The press release is probably the most important part of getting on the media. You have to make it look beneficial. You have to make it really grab their attention. They get thousands of press releases every single day, even just local news channels get press releases and news tips all day, every day. And so you really have to stick out against all the other press releases going out, which, and the way to stick out is the heartstrings. Let's say that I know there's a counselor watching. Very easy for you to get on the media. If you're helping people overcome struggles, it's very easy to do something. You just got to get involved in a community event. Put on a community event. All right, you've got to spend a little money to get on the media. For example, the way I got onto so much media is the first summer tour I ever did, the first tour of my life as a public speaker, I did completely for free. And I traveled across the U.S. I spent probably about $10,000 that summer doing this tour, speaking for free at nonprofits. Only profits I was bringing in was from book sales, which wasn't very much. But the thing was, is I invested this money, and this was on the nonprofit side, but I invested this money to kind of get my name out there and increase awareness, increase product awareness, brand awareness, and do something pull on heartstrings. And by spending that money to do this summer tour and sending out these press releases at every place I stopped by on my summer tour, there's not one city I went to that didn't do a news interview on me. Not one. Because I had a heart-pulling story. I was on a tour. It was an exciting thing for the news to hear about. So you really have to invest. I'm not saying $10,000, but you have to invest some kind of money to put on some kind of event where you're either feeding the homeless, helping kids who are struggling. You got to do something that people care about, right? You can't just do some random act. It's got to be animals, children, or veterans. Those are the three key things that you really want to focus on, because those are the three things that the media is focusing on right now. You have to do whatever the media is focusing on. So if you want to do something with kids, you do something where you put on some fun event for the foster homes. There's a foster home right here in Round Rock. You know, you put on some event for these kids who are in foster homes to benefit them, to help them. You put on some event to help the homeless veterans or veterans struggling with post-traumatic stress or suicide. You help animal shelters. The Humane Society was just flooded. You do something to help them, something to benefit them. This is how you get your name out there to the media. Now, by doing this, I can almost guarantee that you won't get a client by doing this, but what you're doing is you're increasing product awareness. And that's the thing is, if you go to my website after this webinar, go to livingresilient.com. I want you to look in the top right-hand corner. And when you look in that top right-hand corner, you're going to see all these media logos, right? That brings attention into the website of this is just not some other speaker who's trying to make it in the world. This is just not some other guy talking about things who doesn't know what he's talking about. This is someone who's been on the media, who's created a name for himself, who's on the media constantly. Now, once you get on the media once or twice, that's not good enough. You need to find a way to constantly put your name into the media. Do something that the media is going to be interested in and find ways to get more news outlets. Now, this is all about the main media, right? You're talking about the mainstream media. You're talking about getting on Fox News, ABC News, CBS News, in these local areas. If you have some big national service, you can get on to CNN, BBC, NHK, Now, I'm talking about the mainstream media, but that's not the only options that you have. Those are the ones you want to focus on at first because you really want to get into the mainstream media because that's what adds product awareness to you. And having those mainstream logos is great. But another thing that you can do to bring some more awareness is you go to blogs. Find the bloggers who focus on your service area. If you're a counselor, find the bloggers who focus on mental health, who have a great following. Find the bloggers, if you own a vape shop, find the bloggers who talk about vapes and the new products coming out and services. And if you want to talk about, if you're a web designer, find the bloggers who talk about web design and SEO and marketing. You want to find the bloggers who have good followings and find a way to get onto these blog websites. Now, a lot of these people are going to charge you money. And if you don't have the money, so here's the thing, if you have the money, pay it because it's going to benefit you to get in front of all their followers. If you don't have the money, here's the tip. You find a way to do something that's going to benefit that blogger. If you don't have the monetary means to pay them to do an interview on their blog, what you do is you offer a service in exchange for their blog, in exchange for their blog mention of your service. You offer them, you do some type of barter that's going to benefit them. All right, you can't just say, hey, can I get on your blog for free? These people get paid good money to have people on their blogs because they have a great following and they've worked really hard at building this following and they can't do these things for free. Another thing is podcasts. Podcasts are great. Coming up in later this month, I'm going to be featured on the #1 mental health podcast in the whole world. They are the most downloaded podcast in the world. Over 175 countries listen to their podcast. Over 1 million downloads a month. I mean, the numbers are ridiculous. And these podcasts don't be on there because they want interesting stories. So I'm going on a mental health broadcast because that is my service industry. That's where my name is. I've really created a name for myself. Now they're having me on because of all the media I've had before because I'm legitimate. They know I'm legitimate. They've seen my website. They've seen my work. And that media is going to be great for me because now I'm expanding past just the US. Now I'm going to have people who know about me from, Europe and Japan who already know about me, but then you got China, you've got all these countries who download, 175 different countries download from this podcast, and what you're doing is you're increasing your name across the whole world. All right, so podcasts, I'm not saying you have to go after the national ones, but go after local podcasts. There are plenty of local podcasts all over the place. If you're in Austin, there's many that do it here. Another thing with media, so I've gone over quite a few in this, in this few minutes, in this past 20 minutes. And so let me recap on a few of them. Mainstream media is great. You're going to want that. You're not going to gain one client from it because people watch the news sometimes, but most people who watch the news are older people. A lot of people don't really keep up with current events, especially business owners who are constantly busy, who are constantly, their schedules are packed. They don't have time to turn on the TV and watch news. And if they are, they're watching for flood information or weather information or the extreme news. They're not really hearing about the business news. So what the mainstream media does is it adds legitimacy to your project, to your service, to your product. It increases brand awareness, right? Now, that's the mainstream media, and that's how it benefits you. The blogs are because you get the biggest thing about being successful in business is creating a following, offering some kind of free service that people are going to want to know about. You want to grow your Facebook followers. You want to grow your email list. I'll tell you right now, my Facebook followers on Wish Project is over 10,000. I have over 10,000 followers who follow me on there. Now, Living Resilient is new, so it's, I'm still growing that, but I offer free advice all the time. Like what I'm doing right now, this is growing a following because I'm giving free advice that's helpful. So the bloggers is good because you want to create that following, you want to create the name awareness, you want people to know who you are. It doesn't mean that you're going to gain a client from it, but creating that constant pounding in your head. So if you think about it, when you're listening to the radio, there's this few commercials, especially car dealership commercials. You hear them so much on the radio that when that little tune comes on, you can sing it because Mac Hyatt is one of the biggest commercials here in Austin that's advertised on the radio, and constantly having that pounded into your head. Now Mac Hyatt, when you hear that song, you know the song. All right, so it doesn't mean that I'm going to go buy a car from them today because I heard a commercial, but I know who they are because I'm constantly being brought awareness of them through media. So we've talked about mainstream media, bloggers. Now, podcasts is good. Podcasts are up and coming. They are becoming more of a popular thing every day. More people will listen to podcasts. So getting on these podcasts who talk about whatever service you're in. If you help kids, if you have a service that benefits kids, you go to these podcasts that talk about parenting skills or teens or whatever. There's a podcast in every service industry out there. I guarantee you can find a podcast in your industry. So other than those three, the radio is great because everybody in the world listens to the radio. Everybody. What do you do when you're in traffic? Or if you're driving to your meeting, you're listening to the radio. So what you want to do is you want to find a demographic that you really fit. For example, me, I work with veterans a lot. Now, the biggest radio stations I focused on are country radio. And it's because country radio are full of patriots, more patriotic people who are more veteran involved. I'm not saying the other, but I want to focus on my key markets. And my key market is veterans. My key market that I want to focus on are the patriots, the people who support veterans, and that's usually the country music industry. So I will focus on, now getting on iHeartRadio outlets are going to be very difficult. It's very difficult to get on iHeartRadio. But for example, here in Austin, there's a local radio station called Coke FM. I've been featured on there about 5 times because their local radio a lot easier to get onto. Here's the thing, these media things, you don't just want to go on, do an interview, and end it. Make a relationship, build a relationship with that reporter, with that blogger, with that podcast sponsor, with that radio host. You want to build relationships. Don't just go on, say your 2 minutes of things, and go off. Build a relationship, because what you want to do is you want to build a friendship with that person, so that way, whenever you want to get on the media again, you're not just sending out another random public release. What you're doing is you're reaching out individually to that person. You follow up with them. You have a friendly conversation. Hey, how you been? How's the family? And then you bring up the fact that you have something new that you think would benefit being on the news. And so the biggest thing is media is not about just getting on TV and getting off. You want to create relationships. Right now, I have relationships with Al Jazeera. I have relationships with USA Today. I have relationships with Huffington Post. I create friendships. I'm not constantly just sending press release after press release. What I'll do is if they're local in Austin, I'll say, hey, can we go grab lunch? I'll buy it. And we'll just go have lunch. And I won't talk anything about business. I'll just make a relationship with them. I'll catch up, follow up with them, and just have a conversation. Because the biggest thing that people forget about in business is it's about building friendships. It's not about just business relationships. You want to stick out. These people meet thousands of people all the time, especially in the media. What you want to do is you want to stick out. And by sticking out, what you got to do is really build a relationship, get to know about their family life, make a friendship, try to be friends with these people, right? And if they're not local, like I've been on media around the world, I just had a phone call yesterday from 48 Hours, from the host of 48 Hours, because my mom was featured on it, and they called and he told me, hey, the show's going to air tonight. But what he did was when he called and he told me that the show was going to air, he tried to jump off the phone, and I was like, so how you been? How's the family? How's work? And what we did, we had about a 20-minute conversation just about life, just about what's going on in our personal lives. Because by doing that, I'm creating relationships. Yeah, 48 Hours isn't going to benefit my business because they're murder mystery stuff, crime mystery. But here's the thing is he works for ABC or CBS News. He works for CBS Corporate. So if I have someone I really want to reach out to, I can contact him. Now he's my friend. He can make that connection. Build these friendships with these people and make a connection more than just jump on the news and jump off. All right. And whenever you're getting these news outlets, never let one slip through the cracks. All right. What you do is after that, you follow up with them through email. Say, hey, can you send me a link to the video or to the audio to where people can download the podcast or see the blog or see the live news interview? And you save those links and you add a media portfolio onto your website. You want to add that media portfolio so people can go on and watch these news clips and get to know you. What it is when you're on TV, this has been scientifically proven, when you're on TV, people feel a bond with you for some reason, like they know you, like they're friends with you, right? And I don't know why that is, but it creates this bond, this unknown bond to you just because they've seen you on TV. So you want to add these links into your website so people can see, wow, he's been on all these news interviews, on these media interviews, and he or she must really be big in their product, their service industry to be on this many media stations. All right, and then another thing with media that you can do yourself without being on mainstream media, podcast, radio, or blogging is you create your own blog. Create your own blog of creative content, not just, hey, this is what I'm doing in my business right now, but impactful stories. You know, like my focus on mental health is suicide and and post-traumatic stress and teens. All right, so every article I write, I never write an article just to promote my business. What I do is I write an article to give my opinions on why someone is suicidal, how to stop a suicide. What you want to do is you want to create not just boring blogs. You want to create these blogs that bring in some attention, and you want to create this title that really brings in this amazing, like, man, I got to read this. For example, one of the blogs I wrote was called Success After Prostitution, War, Suicide, and Murder. Just that title, you want to read it. You have to read it now because that title is way too interesting. You got to know what it's about, right? So you want to create these titles that really brings in this product attention, this attention to what your blog is about. Don't make it just about business. Make it personalized. Add some personal feelings into it. Another thing is media can be doing your own videos. Make a YouTube channel and do videos. You know, like this interview is going to be on YouTube, and people are going to be able to continue to watch it and get this free advice. You want to add a YouTube channel, but don't just keep a YouTube channel and a link to the channel. Add these videos into certain parts of your website. If you go look at my website on pages, you'll find different videos, because nowadays people don't want to read. They just don't. They don't have time for it. They'd rather watch a video to learn what this website is about, what the service is about. I mean, reading is just not doing enough. And in these videos, try to get some clients. If you don't, mine is a little different. I can't have clients get on video because it's mental health, and it's difficult to have clients come on and talk about struggles they went through in mental health to the public. But for a service that you're in, find a client that you've done a service for, and if you work for kids, make sure you get them to sign a release, the parents to sign a release form. But you get these clients to do testimonies over videos and have these play on your website so people can hear from your past clients, because that increases trust. And trust is the biggest factor in business. People have to trust you. They have to trust that you're worth the money that they're spending on you. They have to trust that you're going to give them the service that you say you're going to give them, and that you're going to do it in the time that you said you're going to do it. All right. And then with these videos, do short clips. Make sure that you keep them short and sweet. All right. Doing something like this 30-minute interview, this 30-minute podcast I'm doing right now, a lot of people aren't going to watch it because it's too long. All right. You want to keep your videos 1 to 2 minutes, 2 minutes max. Try to keep it at 1 minute and make it short and powerful, because attention spans right now are way too short. I don't want to sit there and watch a 5-minute video about something. I want to learn what it's about, get the message, and be done and move on. All right. And so media is the strongest, most beneficial thing you're ever going to do in your business, no matter what. I can guarantee you that. Word of mouth is very important, and media is very important. You want to add media because it adds trust, because you want to reach those clients that isn't word of mouth, because word of mouth is great and you'll get very successful at that. But that word of mouth is slow traveling. All right. You want to get out there and notice right away. And what media does, it's like a form of word of mouth, because if you were trusted to be on TV, if you were trusted to be on news, if you were trusted to be on blogs, podcasts that they trust these news stations. They trust mainstream media. They trust this blogger. They trust this podcast. They trust this radio station. That's why they listen. That's why they pay attention to them. And by being on these platforms, you are building a trust in your product, in your service, in your industry. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. It's all about media today. If you have any questions, today is going to be a free, or any day really. If you're watching this, even later on, not during the live interview, I'm going to be doing free 1-hour consultations. I will speak to you over the phone for an hour. We'll do some strategy plannings on how to move your business to that next level and really do something amazing. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm going to click this Q&A button and see what happens. Let's see. All right. The feature is disabled. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I will give you an hour of my time, do some free consultations. Again, if you want to learn more about me, see why I am beneficial to your business, to your success, just look at my website. And again, I've done all this in less than 3 years. Okay, I've been on over 50 media stations in less than 3 years. I've traveled the world. I've received recognition from government entities. I've received awards from the U.S. military. I have been judged. I've judged national competitions, and I have traveled to Asia to do this work. I mean, I've really built a name for myself in less than 3 years. And now I travel all the time, and I really created a name for myself in this industry, and I've done it in a very short time. This is not a long process. It doesn't have to be a long process. It took me less than 3 years. It can take you less than a year. I can teach you everything you need to know to get this completed in less than 12 months and do what I did in a short amount of time, in an even shorter amount of time. So I look forward to hearing from you. And again, feel free to reach out. My email is andrew@livingresilient.com, or you can visit livingresilient.com to see more about me. All right, appreciate it. Thank you all.